awake, hear the thunder roll. The truth is a weapon and it's claiming its toll. This is the reckoning. Gunner Evans bringing the storm. Block County CPS, your reign is time. The reckoning. Justice screams your name in fire. For every stolen child, for every broken empire. The reckoning is here. Burn higher. You took the innocent. You destroyed the home. Now the reckoning rises. And you stand alone. No more lies. No more chains. Gonna ever sway. Break the chains. Break the chains. Break the chains. This is the reckoning. Gunner Evers leads the fight. Blown County CPS, disappearing from sight. The reckoning. Your kingdom falls tonight. For every parent rising, for every child set free. The reckoning is here. Victory. Gunner Evers, still standing tall. Blount County CPS, the reckoning has only just begun. The truth cannot be silenced. Justice will be done.
Well, who are we going to piss off today with our knowledge and information? Good evening, folks. Welcome to a special edition of Gunning for CPS. I am your host, Gunner, and we're slowly getting into the new area, the new studio, if you will, office slash. We've got a lot to cover tonight, so stick in there, man. We've got a couple of special guests tonight. One of them being, that's right, Jessica Saxton. That's right, Jessica Saxton. As you guys probably know her with the movement that was going on. There's been some developments going on, but Jessica has got her new breakout that is just her own, called justicewithoutlimits.org. But let's get into the show this evening. And like I said, we always have a lot to cover. And I know there's been a lot of stuff that you guys are interested in hearing about. One, let's talk about this. And this is massive. And I'm going to explain why this is massive. And this came through, if you guys have been following the story on on Congress, on the floor, and some of the new bills that have been introduced and how it's going to affect each and every one of us, this is going to blow your mind. Check this out.
I'm on the outside. I'm looking in. I can see through you. See your true colors inside your ugly. I'm on the outside.
Now, if you guys don't know what this is about, well, we're going to explain it to you as soon as I can get this thing to act right. Let's see, where's the screen share? It needs to stop. And let me remove this way. Sorry, guys, they've done some updates to our Restream, we're still getting this new platform and these updates. If you could read that, there is a representative out of the state of Kentucky, Thomas Massey, and he has proposed a bill that would make anybody that is receiving money, and it's called insists on the Political Agent Clarity Act is what it's called. And I really hope this passes. And you guys are saying, well, why? What's the big deal about that, Gunner? Well, it's real simple. What it does is it takes and it will require Americans that that are part of APAC. Now, if you don't know what APAC is, that's the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. It has to do with a lot of stuff with money. Okay, great guy. Congress hates this dude because of this. Because basically Israel and other, we'll say, of our allies are giving money to politicians to promote their objectives, or to have a voice, basically, to align with our allies on political issues here in the United States. Now, one, I don't feel that is, in my personal opinion, should even be legal in the first place. Why? Because it should be about America and America first, and then secondary about our allies and other countries and some of those other treaties and so on and so forth. So long as those things are brought into perspective, this is why there's debate on the House and the Senate floor to go over these things. But what he has done is promoted this thing as saying, listen, if you're part of APAC, then you need to register as a foreign agent under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, or the FARA, FARA. Now, this was done. This ain't the first time that this has been done, okay? This same thing was promoted, if you'll read in there, back on November 21st of 1962. The DOJ under President John F. Kennedy and the Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy ordered AIPAC's predecessor organization, which was the American Zionist Council. Yeah, there's been a lot of that Zionist word thrown out a lot lately, to register under the FARA. Due to its funding comes from activities on the behalf of the Israeli government. And the registration effort didn't continue. As soon as Johnson came in, boom, that thing's gone. It's a conflict of interest. In other words, we're not putting America first with some of our representatives. And this is where you and I are wondering why, hey, they're not hearing us about CPS. They're not hearing us about the corruption in the family courts or the state court systems. We've got all this corruption, kidnapping, child trafficking, all this other stuff. But you've got people that are getting paid to focus when they're looking for this bill. They're basically getting a second paycheck. Sometimes those donations are larger than what they're actually paid. And this is why, hey, you need to register as a foreign agent. Well, I've got a problem with that. If you're sitting up there as a representative of your state in the federal realm, whether it's the House of Representatives or in the Senate, you should be representing your state first. 100%. That should be your very first concern. Absolutely. That's putting America first. But because it comes down to money, they're not doing that. It's a conflict of interest. It's like, well, wait a minute. And that's maybe a change. If we could bring that back, well, then maybe we could take and pass another one saying, listen, you can't serve in the House or Senate if you're part of FARA. FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Now, we've known this from several other people that are promoting Somalia, Iraq, Pakistan. These people are funneling their money to where it doesn't look like it comes from those countries. But that Ishmar, whatever her name is, that does that thing from Minnesota, that married her brother and everything else and all that corrupt thing. This is why, that's how they get in, because they're not going through this stuff the way they're supposed to, and we're putting another country first. That's a huge no-no, and it's just crazy. The next thing I want to take and bring up to your attention is right here in Tennessee. Now, this is scary, folks. It is the only state right now that has proposed this, and they are really pushing this. Because of the shortage of foster homes and they're saying the foster homes, but like I said, here in Blount County, 50% of the children here in Blount County, Tennessee are under CPS control, or, foster care, or something to do with the CPS work, family care or anything else, like 50%. Now, if that isn't a red flag, I don't know what is, but 50% is crazy. Okay. And we wonder about this corruption, but this is going to bother you. This is what they're pushing in Tennessee. I want you to watch this, and this should scare the hell out of you, because if they can do it in one state or even propose it, imagine what they could do in other states. And here, watch.
Locking up foster kids in jail-like facilities. Good evening, everyone.
Oh. Well, come on now. Sorry, guys. Let me see if I can't reload that thing. Come on. Well, let's get the volume on it. Let's try this again.
Foster kids in jail-like facilities. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rory Johnston.
And I'm Amanda Robertson for...
Well, looks like they're having trouble this evening. I don't know what's going on with this thing tonight. Anyway, what we're talking about, and I'll just go ahead and tell you the story since we're obviously having some technical issues. The state of Tennessee has proposed, instead of kids sleeping in offices, all these other things, that they want to put them in jail. That's right. No conviction, no criminal acts. You're in foster care, or CPS comes in and kidnaps your children. They're going to put them in jail. Why? Because they want to put them in jail. Why? Because it's housing, it's food, and what does it do? It expands prisons. Now, if you don't know this, the prison system is generally, especially a lot of the major prisons, are subcontracted out to private companies. Or like it is here in Blount County, we have a Blount County jail, and they subcontract for the federal government to receive federal inmates. So they get more money. This is what causes overcrowding. But yeah, I mean, imagine you're a kid. I'm going to take your kid for nothing. A false accusation, this and that, and your kid's going to the slammer. That's stupid crazy. That is so illegal and so unconstitutional to jail somebody over a civil matter with no evidence, to put a kid in jail. They're going straight into the institution. This is disgusting. How dare they? But this is the stuff that they want to do, and they're proposing this in Tennessee. But at the same time, okay, we've got this case over here. Well, guess what? CPS is probably going to be done after this federal case. Why? Because there's a constitutional question. First of its kind. You realize when I filed the federal case, we actually made history. I am the first person in U.S. history, in the history of this country, to go before a federal court with a constitutional question. You have to write that up completely separate in your federal filing on whether or not the state or CPS cases have a legal right to be heard in a state court. Why? Because CPS in all of your states is a state entity. Well, this contradicts the Constitution, and this would get rid of the corruption altogether. It says in Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2, that's a subsection, it says all cases where the state is a party. The state is a party, right? CPS. The federal court has original jurisdiction. If that holds true, and that is constitutionally sound, and I know they're going to come up with a bunch of bullshit and all this other stuff, and we're going to argue it probably back and forth, but they're going to lose. Why? Because we have something called, that a lot of people don't know about, and we've tried to educate you guys on, is called constitutional canons. the canonizations. In other words, here's case law. Everybody goes case law, case law, case law. Case law's here. Canons are way up here. They stopped the debate of arguing back and forth with case law and follow the constitutional canons. We have already filed paperwork to inform the court. The court. Constitutional canons, we will not take and go back into its constitutional standard, saying you must. On top of telling the federal court, including the federal court clerk and the federal courts, that's the magistrate and the judge, we know your job and we are going to follow the Constitution, or we're going to enforce the other part of the Constitution. And when there's any arguments, instead of going with case law, we must defer per the Constitution to the constitutional canons. It ends the arguments. And we're going to go back in history with a lot of those other arguments because they can't win. Now, I got another video for you, and this is, and now lawyers are picking up on this. Listen, man, I have been blown up in the past probably month, especially. Yes, we've been talking with the FBI. We've been talking to several other people. They know this case is coming. They have looked at the filings, and they're freaking the hell out because it has teeth. DOJ is fully aware of this case. It's not a joke. Okay? But when you realize the history and you understand the Constitution, you understand what our founding fathers meant, and you go down that hole, the stuff that the public school system especially hid from all of us, that we had to do independent study on this. It blows your mind. Now, the lawyers are picking up. I've talked to several lawyers from all across the country say, listen, man, dude, I've seen your filings. Holy crap. I've had one guy say, well, at the same time, oh, look, it's garbage. I go, have you read it? Have you read the whole thing? Well, no, it just looks like, oh, read it again. Because I'm not going to file this like a lawyer. Wait a minute, did you catch that? I'm not going to do this according to the American Bar Association. This case is filed as one pro se, comma, sui juris. Now, if you caught us last week, we explained what sui juris means. Sui juris means you're coming before the court as not just yourself, the individual, but as we the people. But you got to know how to articulate that. You have to know how to stand for it. You have to know what it means, and those words mean, even from the foundation of the country. I'm not coming as just an injured party. I'm coming to this court as an injured party, but also saying we the people have a problem, a constitutional problem. So when they rule on this, and you guys need to catch this, when the court rules on this constitutional question, just because it's about one state, the state of Tennessee, it will affect all 50 states and automatically be retroactive. Gunnar, what's that mean? That means it would make every single case that CPS has brought into a state courtroom in all 50 states, all of those orders and everything else, null and void. And we have followed it up with sanctions and criminal referrals to the DOJ and the Homeland, and they got a jump start on it, baby. Yes, they did, because they know we're coming. We're taking back this country and putting it back under the Constitution the way it should have been. And they have hid stuff from us. That includes case law. That's right. We didn't go to the libraries. We were ignorant. We didn't have all this, all this data and all this flow of information. Well, now we do. And they're slowly updating the Library of Congress to where we have that information. And like I said, that's going to be a huge thing. Now, you guys let's get to this thing with history. Let me show you what The guy turned around and said, he goes, listen, man, I argued the case. Check this out, but we're going to use history and how he took and slaughtered the state courts with history. Watch.
Remember what we said in 1998 in Combs v. Commonwealth, that you have to have serious physical injury or death? That hasn't changed. If you do not have serious physical injury or death, you cannot apply for a warrant. The warrant becomes invalid de facto. Because the present case did not involve death or physical injury, the warrant was plainly prohibited. Remember what we said in 1998.
Wow. Well, I guess we'll close this one out. There it is, folks. Remember what we said back here, that you can't do this. Remember what we were educating you about the warrants? Remember about the warrants? And we were educating you about how it had to come from an Article 3 judge or an Article 1 judge that had special permission from Congress, is the only one that can give a warrant to get into your personal effects. That a family court judge doesn't even have the power or the jurisdiction to enter a court order to even allow CPS in your home. They're an Article 1 judge, and unless they're named by Congress, this is where you have to file that thing. You got to file with the court right away. Well, I'm giving an order that they, CPS is to come into the home and all this stuff. Your Honor, objection, and I'm gonna file it. Why? Your Honor, are you? And I'm going to ask the question of the court: are you an Article 1 or Article 3 judge? They're going to say Article 1. Then show me where Congress named you by name to give you special powers to, one, either issue a warrant or jurisdiction to even have anything to enter with a home. Because if not, you've just committed treason and you committed a felony by imitating a federal judge. You don't have that power. And that's where they've deceived a lot of people, that we have this particular power that they don't have. But guys, I'm going to share one last thing for you, and then we're going to get, we are going to get started. I am going to share. You guys wanted to know what takes, and well, matter of fact, you know what? Let's hold off for a minute. Guys, I'm going to start off. Guys, let's welcome Jessica Saxton to the show once again. Hello, Jessica.
You do it. We use against him for the law. I do it as Thursday.
Hi, Jessica. And we have Johnny here also, Mr. Johnny Wicks, as an advocate, guys, joining us tonight. And if you guys have seen the video, there has been a huge disruption in the movement with Tanawa Downing that has been fully exposed now, thanks to these two, with receipts, with evidence. Guys, blow it up, man. The floor is yours. What do we got going on? That video was really explosive. I know a lot of us had a lot of, we had our suspicions. We kept it to ourselves, but we were watchful. But yeah, you guys came with receipts and full exposure. What's going on?
Well, first of all, oh, we're gonna have to turn something on. So, good.
I
trusted Johnny.
Give me yours. Go ahead.
Okay, good. So I have been dropping nuggets, I guess, for a couple of months now about things that I knew. And obviously the conversation was being held in confidence, I thought. But I didn't know how to drop it. I didn't know how to expose it. And that was something that I kept talking. I think, Gunnar, I talked to you about this for several months. Like, I have these things, but I don't really know how to, present it, because I didn't want to cause any type of disruption within the advocacy world.
Yeah,
And,
there's been a lot of it with
so-
Stand With Meg and a lot of others with that we've seen come forward in the news and several other platforms, with people ripping people off for their stories not being true or anything. But I don't think I've ever found anything, Jessica, that you've ever done personally, to my knowledge, that has ever been deceptive.
Look, I didn't know. I didn't know the things that were being spent And there were things that happened along the way that just made me question, but I could never figure it out. And then it wasn't until just a few weeks back, he was attempting to try to bring me back into the We Shall Be Free tour. And he was like, I'll send you all of my cash apps. Sorry. And all the things. And I was just like, all right, sounds great. So anyway, so that's why we're where we're at. And he sent me his Cash App statements from present month all the way back through 2024, well before I actually started, to join him on the We Shall Be Free tour. And when I started looking through that, I'm like, wait a second, liquor stores,
So let's be clear.
adult
This
stores.
is donation money that we're talking about here.
It was donation money.
was
Yeah.
donated.
It was donation money for sure. Because since 2023, so if you look back on his social media accounts, you can clearly see that since 2023, he started asking and soliciting for donation money. And he always says, for this whole entire time, he has always said that 100%, every dollar of your donation goes to this movement.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry, but if you need underwear, you don't need to get them from an adult store, and you don't need to pay high
underwear
prices.
doesn't count.
I know. I'm just saying that there's no way that Tanawa Dining would be able to justify those purchases and be able to look at his supporters in the eyes and say, yeah, I went to this adult store and I spent $100 and some odd dollars multiple times. And that was for the movement, because this girl, if I needed said clothing, it would be Walmart or Goodwill. And so, yeah, those were things that when I saw, I was appalled, actually. And I felt for the last couple of months there, traveling the country with him, I felt like I was being used, because a lot of people don't realize that I was doing the most of the work. And I don't say that hesitantly. As a matter of fact, I think that some of his videos...
Jessica, you got to admit the difference between the two. I mean, between you and Tanawa, which one was more appealing to an audience? Come on. I mean, that's just common sense.
Well, I was doing this because I felt like that it would help our families. I feel like that it would help all of us get our children back. And one of the last things that I asked him, one of the last questions I said, hey, I need some help. I need some help on the administrative side of things. I'm getting messages that I cannot respond to. We're trying to fix a vehicle right now, so sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Now, Johnny, I got a question for you. I've seen some of your posts and on your page there, Bubba. So what's with the cross-dressing thing and all that comes across in this story here, bud? I mean, I got to know which one did it better, you or Tanawa? I mean, come on there, guy. I mean, what's up with that? I mean, I love the post, but what's the story behind this?
Well, I was a bartender for a little while, and so I was the non-filter for the costume. It was a Halloween costume party for the bar, and I was a non-filter. And if you look at the photo, that's the bartender, the actual bartender, the female bartender was the filter part of the costume. So, but Tanawa, I don't know, just a little fun with some AI. A friend of ours threw it up there a while ago when we were first talking about this, when she was first talking to me. And Jessica had banned me from sharing Chief Tanawa, but I figured if I'm in the doghouse, I might as well go for all of it.
Well, listen, both Jessica and I both know, if you guys know Malibu Dallas, he's very open with what he has. We don't have a problem with that. That's your personal life. But we also understand, having that conversation with Malibu, there's a lot of damage usually psychologically that's done to people that are in that particular lifestyle. It's not just something they drop into. This is more of a protective mechanism. But there were things going around, like I said, too, of possibly Tanawa involved with a particular person of that nature and some drug use, possibly.
That's what the evidence would suggest. If you do as much time as Mr. T has done, there's a chance that you might not be so hetero, but not that I judge. It's
Right.
the biggest thing. The biggest thing to focus on is the fact of where the money came from that he was
Yeah.
using for his extracurricular activities. I am a parent that was dragged into this, and I have given everything I have, and sold everything I could, and joined up with Jess, and I know for a fact what she's doing with the money, how much money she's got coming in, and she has all the receipts of what she didn't know. And it was even what pushed me over the edge is there was a small amount of money that came in, because I was talking to her about how you can look at. I could see her public donations through Cash App on my app,
Right.
and she didn't know that that was like that. And that's kind of what started to open that up. And he had received money from her aunt, I believe, Jess, if that was the case, and didn't even tell her about that. Well, you're taking away the feeling that like I got when people that I am close to donated to me as I went through the 4 years, the 4 year fight that I was in. And so I don't know, that kind of pushed me over the edge. And she doesn't want to upset the movement. She doesn't want to cause rifts. She's afraid of them. There was a lot of reasons why Jessica didn't want to expose it, but you know, I kind of live a little crazy. A friend called me Johnny Dangerous. It had to be done. And if I was going to be the bad guy, then I'm the bad guy. But as long as people stop donating to somebody who's going to frivolously use those funds for those kind of things, then it's worth it to me. I'll be the bad guy. I don't mind.
I grew up with the saying my grandfather always told me, and I've always lived by it. And it's just as simple. I had it on the wall of my business and everything, before I had to shut it down with my health and everything. And it was right is right, wrong is wrong, and everything in between is bullshit. And now understand that man is a World War II veteran. He was one man away from marching on Hitler himself. So you're talking about it as somebody that had seen the concentration camps, had seen real life, somebody that was very grounded in reality and, common sense. He was also, believe it or not, he only had like a 6th grade education. But here's the funny thing. He would sit at the table at night at home. I remember growing up with blueprints, and he was the general foreman on several projects. He was even the general foreman on the Chicago Skyway. So to have somebody sit down and say, listen, if you want to know anything about life, you're always going to be challenged, but you do the right thing even when nobody's looking. Why? Because that means you have honor, integrity, and respect, and don't ever compromise that, because as a man, you will never, ever get that back if you lose it. And that is held so important to me that even when I was going through all my stuff, I'm like, this is not me. And anybody that knows me, this is a frame up. This is a cover up. Well, now I've got the receipts for everything, which is, in our federal filing, which is, by the way, it's the first of its kind in American history that a lot of people don't understand, is that we are the first person ever in history to go before the court in a civil matter to say, does CPS as a state representative or a state agency have the ability to hear a case in state court when the Constitution says in Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2, that all cases where the state's a party, whether it's plaintiff or defendant, that the federal court has that. Now, I know I've heard Tanawa say that, and I was working with it. I'm like, you son of a gun, that's something that you were picking up on a private conversation, and you're running with this stuff. I felt a little robbed, because that was some of the perspectives I was working on for over 2 or 3 years during my research as I was putting it together. But it seems like it's not from my opinion, and knowing that, out there, it seems like he's got a perpetual habit of stealing from other people, whether it's ideals, it's concepts, or now we're looking at money. And I don't think that's any shame on Jessica. She busted out with her own thing, Justice Without Limits. It's taken off. We've got some huge things that are out there. Matter of fact, for you guys, if you got a pen and paper, I got one that'll get you. You know how we've all heard about all these states talking about how they've got immunity? Nope. Matter of fact, let me give it to you. Chisholm, Chisholm versus Georgia. This was way, way, way back when, 1793, where a citizen of South Carolina sued the state of Georgia for debts it owed to them. Georgia refused to show up because they claimed sovereign immunity. And it's the old matriarchal idea of the king can do no wrong. Well, guess what? The Supreme Court at that time ruled 4-1 against Georgia. Justice James Wilson at the time, a primary architect of the Constitution itself, argued that the people are the only sovereigns. And if a state violates the rights of a person, that the state is just another party in court. This was the ultimate anti-tyranny ruling. And this is the stuff that they wanted to bury from us. Now, think about that for a minute. If that's 1776 to 1783, that short period of time says states, individuals, judges, all of them, you get no immunity. The only immunity that's here, if you work in the government, is what's that saying, whether you're a judge, elected official, or all these other things, that case law and the Supreme Court ruled under the Constitution, absolutely not. Do you know how big that is to find a case like that that strips the immunity of every single state? But that's one of those cases from way back towards the beginning of our country that they buried. And these states created, we're going to create this sovereign immunity. You can't. This was already ruled on from the foundation in the first less than 50 years of our country, and it's never been overturned. That's huge. I mean, now think about that as you're going in, Jessica and Johnny, you guys are working on going around and spreading this conversation of saying, hey, you think you have immunity? Guess what? This case law says you've got no immunity. And the only people that are sovereign are us.
Well, even as the laws are written today, the immunity only comes within if they work within the scope of the law. So if they knowingly are breaking the law, they're not working within the scope of it. So I mean, even as it's written without that case law, it's not sufficient. It's just what I've seen in my time in this horrible, world of family law, is that if you corner them on one set of laws, like say common law or administrative law or maritime law, they just switch it up. They jump around. They kind of just do what they want. It's kind of rogue. And there's no accountability anywhere, even up into the ombudsman. Like I sat for the last 3 months, I sat at my Capitol, going through these hearings. And in Minnesota, we have all that rampant fraud. Well, that's everywhere. So I sat and I watched and I saw who was on the side of the people and who was on the side of the, administration. And it seems like it's all pre-scripted. So I don't think, regardless how you push it, I don't think we'll see any type of, any type of accountability until we get a third party in there, at the very least, independent.
We
and I
got to
don't even care
remember
what
too,
party.
one thing we push to Johnny, that we push, especially here on the show, is make sure you're fighting in the right court. You're filing that in the right court, because you're right. The lower courts will not take in, I'm not going to obey that. I'm not even going to follow the Constitution. Matter of fact, I can't tell you the amount of stories I've heard of that. Well, the Constitution doesn't even apply here, especially in family court. Yes, it does.
Yeah, and tell me this: how many parents have criminal cases, criminal charges in a non-criminal court? I mean, that makes no sense. I fortunately escaped out of it without catching the case. But I mean, the most gentle people have criminal records due to family law.
Let me take in and do that. If you're not in a criminal court, because that's something similar they did to me here in Blount County under Harrington, is when they wrote it up and Harrington signed it, they actually used a criminal code. Well, when you use a criminal code, this is where you defer back to the state's constitution. Why? Because Article 1, Section 14 of the Tennessee Constitution explicitly says this is how you interweave this and how you have to put it on paper. No person shall be made to be held for a crime unless they've been presented, indicted, or impeached. Neither one of those three were ever done. Therefore, I could never answer for a crime or be accused of being held for civilly or criminally if those things have not been done. You violated your own state's constitution. That's what scares them, is when you go back to their own constitution, you say, wait a minute, your own state, you may not, deal with this, but you also swore an oath to uphold your state's constitution, did you not? Yes. Well, now, Harrington, you have now violated the state's constitution, because when you put that in there under your summation and it was filled out and you use that criminal code, that I have done a criminal code, there's no crime. I've never even been arrested. And I'm agreeing with you, Johnny, 100% that, yeah, how many people are going through a criminal trial in a civil court with no jury, with, none of the evidence, none of the requirements for evidence. I mean, hell, Harrington broke the rules of evidence. Matter of fact, so did Bedingfield, because they didn't follow 24-7-123 for the rules of evidence, in Tennessee. Once again, you got to get into your own state's code. So you have to use their policies, their procedures, their codes, even their own codes, especially for family law, because most of the states have a code section or a section of their code that deals with that, but then it all has to harmonize with the state's constitution. And in every state's constitution, there's also a de facto clause that acknowledges the supremacy clause of the U.S. Constitution. But and this, I think, that a lot of people don't get, is when they file their paperwork and this and that, you have to, when you guys are filing, and listen, just because you say something in court, get it on paper. File it, because that's what the appellate courts look at, and that even all the way up. Put it on paper, 100%, and explain it as though you're an 8-year-old. Connect the dots for the judges, connect the dots for everybody else. And I think that's an important thing. Now, just so we're clear too, Jessica, the justicewithoutlimits.org, that is your own personal thing. It is not tied to Tanawha, correct? Just to clear things up for our listeners. Okay.
Yes, 100%.
The funding is already separated also too for that also.
As much as the funding, as far as what I can tell, is completely separate. Now, we have a lot of people that are telling me, well, I donated, a significant amount of money to him thinking that it was going to JWL, and it wasn't. And I haven't seen a penny of that. I take it back. I did call him out on one that I knew for sure way back when, and he sent me $100. But aside from that, that's it. But there's been, as far as I know, and to the best of my belief, there has been $10,000 that was donated to him through some Cash App by an anonymous donor, one that he actually confirmed was going to donate me $10,000 to Justice Without Limits. He called me before it was donated, and then it was later confirmed by an individual that said that they had donated $10,000. So this was right after we left. I haven't seen a dime of that. So yes, we are completely separate. Everything is separate. I'm not working with him anymore. I don't want anything to do with his criminal liability, fraud, his name, nothing. Complete separation at this point moving forward. And another thing is, anyone that filled out the surveys under JWL, all of that is secure. Tanawha never had access to that. He never had access to your email addresses. He never had access to any of your contact information. All of that is still secured with JWL and myself, and I still haven't given it to anybody. So all that is that. If you're worried about your affidavits, because I know a lot of people, and including myself, my affidavits are there. I plan to send him a cease and desist on using my affidavits, just because I'm not sure what exactly he's going to use it for. Here's why I say this. And I'm sorry. I am sorry for believing the BS. I'm just sorry for it. But when you look on his affidavits,
you're not the only one. Let me say this. You're not the only one. It's not the first time, I'm sure, any of us or our listeners or anybody out there has ever been, hoodwinked into believing something that wasn't.
Yes, but
And you and I have had
I
that
was,
personal conversation too, especially with people
right.
close. Um,
But I was
this
seen
is
as a leader. And so with that, I take a lot of responsibility. Now, that being said, I was brand new into this. I mean, I didn't really go public until April of last year. And it wasn't until I did my Maricopa County service in October that that's when I kind of, really blew up. So I get it, but I accept the responsibility. And I want to just apologize for everybody for believing something that I didn't really look into, or I did look into it and then he had a way of talking me out of why it wasn't true or was right or was wrong or whatever. Regarding the affidavits, when you look on his affidavits, his federal affidavits, it specifically lists the victim. So you put your name or your child's name as the victim on there, but you don't ever list the name of the actual perpetrator. And I remember questioning him on that multiple times. And I'm like, well, why are you not going to put the name of the judge? Why are you not going to put the name of the prosecutor? Why are we only putting the victims' names on these federal affidavits? And Gunnar, that's when I actually wrote my own affidavits that called out the judges and the CPS workers and the social workers. That's when he wouldn't actually say, yeah, put the perpetrators' names on these affidavits. That was in October when I wrote my affidavits. And then that's when we started serving those to the actual county commissioners, naming the perpetrator, because you have to have both.
Yeah.
If there's a crime, you must have a victim,
and you got
right?
to
But you
have
also
somebody
have to
that's
have a
committed the crime.
perpetrator.
Yeah, a perpetrator. Well,
So
now
anyway,
listen,
that's
going
ahead.
down that thing as we're doing this with the federal case. I have started back up the affidavits, and I have made sure that, listen, guys, if you haven't got your affidavit to me, we're dealing specifically with Fourth Amendment violations where CPS has come into the home without a warrant multiple times, where a judge has issued something like that, put that in there, or the fact that that CPS has drug you into court into a state case, put that in there. And like I said, guys, name names. Okay. This is why it's important. Why, and this is why I'm going to tell you it's important. We're already working with the DOJ and the FBI. These affidavits are going to be turned over, one, be used as evidence in my case to show this is not just happening here in Tennessee or Blount County. This is a national problem. This is part of a huger RICO. It's not just in the state of Tennessee, it's all 50 states. Those affidavits will be turned over to the Department of Justice to give them somewhere to start. Evidence. Why? Because when this comes down and they answer that constitutional question of going, you're absolutely right, CPS cases should be in the federal court, and that would protect all these other interests and everything else. That's what the Constitution says. They are a party. You can play it all you want. It's and when they come back with that and they answer that question, that makes every state, all 50, including retroactive, 10, 15, 20 years ago, where they've heard those cases, all those orders become null and void. Because if you answer, that's retroactive. That means when they answer the constitutional question, you're right. You're 100%. As I go before the courts and say, as one of we the people, this is not right. This is what the Constitution says, regardless of what the state answers. But I can go back to the framers and use that case law I just said. This is why. I can go back to Article 3, when they were writing Article 3, Section 2, and the reasons behind it, when they had several conversations about that, and it's very well documented in the Federalist Papers and several other things. And this is why, and yes, and if you look over here in the comments too, that Amy White took it and brought in there. So you guys are, what we were talking about before is go back and look at the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, and all laws are in paramateria. In other words, they must be in harmony with those two foundational documents. If not, they are null and void. That was foundational, completely foundational, and that's the argument we're bringing forward. Now, if we're going with the Constitution, there's no argument, because the Constitution is not a negotiable document. You can argue all the state crap you want to do. Well, we've got this under this. It doesn't matter. It's null and void. This is what it says. We're going to go back into history. We're going to have those conversations. But our forefathers knew about this. If you look at the Declaration of Independence, Jessica, and this is going to make you feel better because even our founding fathers knew this. It specifically says we will tolerate little bits of erosion of our freedom until it becomes that we are aware that it becomes tyrannical.
Mm-hmm.
And when we realize it becomes tyrannical, in other words, we're going to make mistakes. It's part of our human nature. This is the beauty of the founding fathers, that when we do realize it, we then have an obligation, a duty to correct it, and then put things in place to make sure it never happens again. This is what I like to explain to my children, and my children are older. You got to learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
And this is the same thing I believe our Creator puts us through. Hey, I had the wool pulled over my eyes, or there used to be an old saying, you fool me once, shame on me. You fool me twice, shame on you. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of those things of, do you think that, and a lot of people say, oh, well, she's just, this is just, and this is one of those things of saying, no, I'm going to learn from this. And I think that's one of the things with Johnny. I appreciate that he was so bold with this to turn around and just say, this needs to get out here in the people. I mean, hats off, Mr. Wicks. I greatly appreciate it, because sometimes, listen, man, we were wonderfully and beautifully made. We were made to be different. Men are different, women are different. The whole thing of being equal, it does not exist, because we're not equal. But we're at the same time, I'm not the same as Johnny. And Jessica, you're not the same as, we'll say, Tiff or anybody else from some of the other shows. We're all made for a specific purpose and a reason. And when we find that reason out, that's what we're designed to do. But we're going to make mistakes. Even our founding fathers said, you're going to screw up from time to time. They're going to eat at you. Why? Because evil doesn't sleep. Greed, power. This is the struggle since the beginning of time, back to Jacob and Esau and some of the other stories that were done. And I mean, if you go through even history, Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, look how those kingdoms fell. Look how Rome fell. It's the same story. It's nothing new under the sun. It's the same thing. But until people stand up and say, you know what, hold me accountable. I screwed up, but I didn't know. But if there's some kind of something that needs to come, bring it on. I'll take it because I deserve it. Those are good people, because I'm willing to learn from it and make the correction, compared to other people that, and this has gone on from what you're saying for over a year, for a long time, of misuse of funds, of misuse of this, and talking as a former multi-million-dollar business owner, I can tell you the stuff I had to learn as a master electrician and a business owner of an electrical business, that there are rules to do things. You have to make sure when you do your tax write-offs, it has to be categorized. It has to be done this. It has to be done. And you have to learn all that. And the same thing goes for a 501c. There are rules of certain things that the accountants will tell you, this can be classified as this, but you can't do it as this. There's rules for it. There's rules for trusts. You got to set it up like this, but you can spend it. It has to be itemized in the right account for it to quantify or qualify to do the right thing. Or you have to justify it. Now, I don't see, unless he's, like I said, alcohol, unless you're burning some kind of alcohol burner, mixing in the gas tank and doing a hot rod, little white lightning, the old fashioned way.
And look,
that's
I'm
a whole
not,
different story.
yeah, I'm not saying, saying that it was excessive. It was excessive. And when he talks about the things that he doesn't do and presents himself, and another thing that's so frustrating is, I'm like, if you were dishonest with people, that would make all the difference in the world. But the fact that you have like this double life, and one of the things that I talked about in the video that I'm sure everybody's questioning, everybody's wondering about this. Okay. So I'm just going to address it straight on.
That's what it's here for, girl.
I know for a fact, because he and I talked about it after I discovered it. So the way that I found this on his phone, he gave me access to his phone, but he was so prideful in thinking that he didn't have anything to hide, that he forgot about a messaging chain between him and a transgender woman, meaning that it was a man transitioning to a woman. And he had a text message chain from this person that he met on FetLife. They spent 2 nights together.
And if you don't know what FetLife, guys, is, this is the fetish community is what this is. It's a platform for them to take and hook up.
Yep. And Tanawa, one of his screen names was Mr. Litigator on FetLife. And I'm sorry.
No. Listen, Jessica,
laughing.
listen. I did business with a guy that was in that. Him and his wife were in the swing lifestyle. That was their thing to do it. Once again, I employed him to do some mechanic. He was a fleet mechanic, and this is just what they did. And it's like, listen, well, I've got boundaries. It's not my thing, but I've got no problem doing business with you. Or if you want to come out and have a barbecue or this. To each their own. I have no problem with that. But at the same time, I'm aware of those communities and everything else. But I find it funny because I know what you're talking about, because they do have their own little circle, and that has really expounded upon things. But yeah, some of that goes to some really dark, broken shit. I'm just going to be dead honest with you.
I don't care. Gunner, your face, man. I can't.
I'm sorry. Listen, man, I know the dark side of things, man. You're talking whips and chains and all sorts of weird stuff. And
here is the thing. I do not care. I do not care how people live their lifestyle. It's just like okay, look, let's take Dallas Malibu. Dallas and I talked about this before. Yeah. He has talked about how he is transgender and all the things. You know what? I don't care. I respect Dallas because he's honest about it. I respect him because he's not lying about his finances. I respect him because he does the things that he says he's going to do. And so there's a huge difference here when you have a person who is making people believe, because he's a fast talking preacher, and he's making people believe that he is one person, that he's anti-porn, right? He talks about how he's anti-porn because of in the early 2000s, the Supreme Court ruled that pornography was a freedom of speech, and that therefore they're going to legalize pornography, but yet that's going to make it so that your families are now having a sexual deviation, and because of the sexual deviation, now you're going to, so he goes through all these things. And how many times have I heard that speech? I know for you guys that have listened to him, you've heard that speech from him, but yet he has a porn issue. Right. And now he's soliciting people off of FetLife. That wasn't the only person that he solicited off of FetLife. There's been more. But now he solicits this transgender woman off of FetLife as Mr. Litigator. They spent 2 nights together in Colorado. And on that messaging chain that I legally received, because he gave me access to his phones, saying that he had nothing to hide. And this is what I found. And on that, the guy's like, no, he's asking like, what should I bring? And Tana was like, oh, well, I only do clear. I don't even know what this means. It wasn't until I asked Johnny, I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, it's probably meth.
Jessica, you've got this little square box that, you're cute that you're in it and everything, but you're so pure. You're on that purity culture end of the scale. I'm from the streets of Chicago. Let me tell you exactly where that's meth. That's straight up meth. That's smoking, usually smoking, injecting anything else. But when you go that, it's usually mixed with something else. There's a lot of street names. Everybody goes, how do you know all that? I go, man, I grew up on the damn streets. You don't understand. That side of the tracks that everybody says don't go over there? That's where I grew up. Yeah. So I know all that. And yet I got a way out of it. Like I said, I come from not the best neighborhood, the best thing, to give you an idea, 70% of my graduating class is either dead or in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was very few of us.
I don't know. I don't know these things. I mean, I wouldn't know. And it wasn't until I saw some of the comments after Johnny posted his video. I saw some of the comments, and I remember after I picked him up, he was always sniffing. I thought that he had a cold because I don't know. And then he would go into the bathroom. This was after I picked him up. He would go into the bathroom and he would stay in the bathroom for like 30 minutes. And I'm like, man, he's really got to, you know what? And then he come back out and he's sniffing and he's sniffing and he's sniffing. And I don't know. I'm just like driving around, thinking that this is it. I know, guys, this because I didn't know. My sister, when my sister met him, she was like, Jess, I think he's probably on drugs. He's sniffing a lot. And I'm like, no, I haven't seen him do drugs. And she's like, well, I think he is, but I didn't know because I don't know what to look for. Anyway, sounds like that it was.
Well, now listen, if you combine the Fet Life with the other one, for all you know, they were suppositories.
Gunner.
I'm just saying. Listen, man. There ain't much
Here's
you
There's
can
a
do
lady
to
present,
surprise
Gunner.
me.
Here's another
Straight up.
thing about this transgender woman is that she is on only she, I don't even know what's the correct term. So just forgive me if I'm speaking the wrong way. But that person is on OnlyFans, and that is one of the ways that person makes money. So we're looking at Tanoa Downing meeting with a transgender woman in a hotel room for 2 nights while this is a sex worker. I mean, I found this person on you can look it up. It's Jezebel BJ. It's Jezebel BJ on TikTok.
You guys, let's focus on the real issue, because that's somebody's personal private life. But the money that he was using came
we gotta have a little fun too, though, Johnny.
Yeah,
I
trust me, I like to have some fun.
Just even for entertainment,
but I'm going into,
because you never know. Being the litigator, for all you know, he's showing up in a judge room and he's got a special gavel or something he's using as a pleasure toy. I mean, you can go down all these things, and then now Jessica's over here like, oh my gosh, yeah. See, I got her going. Let me tell you something, Jessica. Don't go down the Fet Life thing to understand some of the stuff in there, because you'll go, oh my gosh. I mean, Johnny's over here laughing his butt off. You don't know about that. Trust me, you're not the first person that I've had to deal with. And this is where education is so important, not just in Constitution, but we've got to understand there are people out there like that listen, because they've been in, and this is the other side of it, to where you got to connect it, you got to come real with it. And this even connects with Dallas. I've had long conversations with Dallas. They are broken people that something bad has happened to them, either because they've been adopted or they've been put through the system. And you wonder why those numbers have increased. Well, now that goes side and side with CPS cases and children getting kidnapped. This is what happens to people. This is what breaks them. This is part of their searching for an answer or some sort of relief from the dark, evil things that they have been involved in. They go hand in hand, so we can't separate them. So we may as well educate on them and say, listen, there are people out like that. But once again, when we understand them, and I'm going to say this is because that gives us a compassion. Because a lot of times I'll talk to a lot of people that are in the homosexual lifestyle, transgender, this, that, and I'll have those conversations. I'll go, now tell me what happened in your childhood, or what happened to you that caused those particular things that you didn't grow up normal. And listen, guys, 98% of the time, 98%, they've been through the system. So they walk hand in hand. And that's something we've got to understand when we're dealing with some of these people that are broken. Because remember, they're a product of the system. Even going into, you're taking away from all these other things. And yes, you're talking about corruption, but we're also looking at the damage he's done to the people trying to get their kids out of this system. But what about the people that grew up in these systems? This is just a side effect. And as Johnny pointed out, hey, he doesn't have a good history. He's been in the pen. He's been to the penis farm, as we call it. So you turn around, listen, there are certain things that will affect your life. But we have to have some understanding. Now, if you're going to continue to do illegal things, no, I'm not good with that. But like you said, he having the transparency of like Malibu has, of saying, yes, I've had this. This is what kind of pushes me in these particular directions. But once again, that's somebody being real with themselves and having that, what some people used to call that come to Jesus moment, I guess is the East Tennessee vernacular for it, is I have to face that. I have to find a way to heal. And I think, like I said, with all this, yeah, there's going to be repercussions for all this stuff as this is turned over for criminal. and this is investigated and people take advantage. But understand this, guys, especially our listeners, not everybody out there is like this. These are broken people, and you got to get to their backstories. This is why, and like I said, talking with Jessica, talking with Dallas, and my number one rule, and Jessica knows this, you're going to keep it real with me. You're going to be upfront. You're going to have those hard conversations, and we're going to talk about those hard topics because we're going to find out who you are as a person. Because if I'm going to associate with you or even have that conversation with you, I ain't doing your facade or your mask. You can keep that bullshit for somebody else.
I want to tell you something, Gunner, because I see some comments over to the right here. And I've been in a lot of groups. Since I got out into this advocacy world with all these advocacy groups. There's a lot of money here, right? And there's a lot of fraud within the court.
Oh yeah.
And they might just call themselves warriors, right? But I see the big bags under their eyes, and I see the jitteriness, and I see how they can't look at the camera and maintain eye contact when I look at them. And I see the way they talk to people with groups like maybe with a D and a W in the name for the head guy. And I know who these groups are. I've been watching them for a while. They're next. All right. I'm not messing around. I know that I have dealt with parents and I've helped people for 4 years for free. And I have never once asked for a dime in return. Have I solicited donations? Twice to get on the road and to do what I got to do within the plan that was given to me from up above. And I've seen first and foremost that these groups that want to ask a lot of questions and want to make a lot of accusations, I see you and I've been watching you and you're next, so you better play it straight. You better quit asking for money from people that are broken when you know that you're junk, you know that you ain't doing anything. If you're going to attack people like Mr. Malibu Dallas, and he just happens to expose you, well, that puts you on the radar. There's a lot of monsters in my company. We expose Monsters Media Group. I mean, that's exactly what we're going to do. And I support Jessica 1,000%. My phone's going to die. And there's a group that's commenting, on to the right that I'm getting a little upset about, because I mean, that gentleman in charge of that likes to maybe assault women, possibly. I don't know, but we're going to find out and we're going to expose it.
Well, listen, we've got to, and this is one of the things, it is better for the advocacy groups to call out the right people than it is somebody from the outside, like they did with Meg, of somebody that didn't have and then blow the whistle on this. Guys, it's about having honor, integrity, and respect when you do this thing. And like I said, I'm going to agree. A lot of things that I have seen, there are very few that are transparent. They may not be the best in the best shape of doing things. Remember, they're learning. Remember, I started from nothing. And there's a lot of people, like I said, that struggle with things. But the idea is, listen, man, if you've got this going on, no matter what it is, and this goes out to Tanawa or anybody else out there that's struggling with abuse, do the right thing, make the decision, do the right thing, get some damn help, and be accountable for
There's lots of programs. I'll gladly show them a lot of programs that help them. But what I won't stand for is people soliciting money and using that money for their own personal gain like that. Yeah. Maybe if I have 5 Maseratis, I'm not going to charge $150 for a half-hour consultation that I can get for free somewhere else. I've been told when I was learning about what I was dealing with from a group that worked for 12 years and taught me a few tactics at which I could utilize as I move forward. They warned me that all groups are infiltrated and that some groups are funded by the ops so that they can find the vulnerabilities. They can find the best victims, the ones to extort. And I've been watching and they've been asking me to be there. And I've been there and I've seen and I've done my due diligence to see who it is I'm talking with, who it is I'm observing. So maybe when these FCFWs come squirting on over and start throwing accusations, well, they don't know that I know. So I'm telling them right now that I know, and that, you know, they can go off into the shadows, maybe return some of their money, maybe stop doing the nefarious activities that they are currently doing. But I mean, other than that, I don't care if you dress up like a girl. I don't care if you dress up like a guy. I don't care what you do that doesn't inhibit somebody else's right to pursue happiness, and freedom. But if you're swindling and you're a fraud and you're a snake oil salesman, well, I see you. You know, I see you, and a lot of people see you. And you know, that's all I'm going to say about that. But my phone's going to
Well,
die, Gunner. So I'm gonna leave you
we're
with the
good.
lovely Saxton.
Well, thank you, Johnny, for being on the show. And like I said, I would hope to extend this invitation to come back on again at
Absolutely.
any time. And
I
we'd love to
appreciate
learn
you
more.
very much, Gunner.
Oh,
I do.
Hey, man, this has been about it's been about the kids. It's been about freedom. It's been about the Constitution. I, for one, have never asked for any type of money or anything. There's been some people that have explored some different possibilities and this and that to try to do some stuff, but once again, it was nothing to her. It's like, I'm not sure about it. That deals with structure. You're dealing with this, that. I said, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to set up a 501c. You're going to have
Definitely, yeah,
there's so
definitely,
much about it.
Gunner, there's definitely a big difference between asking for money and then charging money, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well,
There's a big
and
difference.
that's one. There's one thing. That's why I've always kept everybody with a lot of people that contact me and go, well, I'd like to do this. Listen, I'm not an advocate. I'm an educator. I'm a news person. This is just where I stay. I'm going to educate you. I'm going to give you that information. I'm going to tell you, figure it out and see if it works for your case, or if it doesn't, that's up to you. I'm going to point you in these directions. And the idea is, and here's the other thing. No two cases are the damn same. There is not a one size fits all. When somebody, can you not just, I go, do you realize the amount of time it took just in my case? And I've been dealing with my case for over 3 years, and research and investigation and everything else, and case law and canons and this and historical documents and figuring out how all this stuff works and what angle was right. And what was presented as, we'll say the legal term is doing business as usual, doesn't mean it's been done constitutionally. We've just gotten used to it. But now that it's all been declassified, such as our own country killing our own president, JFK, I mean, look at that. It's just one of those. It's just one of those things of saying, who can you trust now? And now even more stuff's coming out. This is the issue with the internet that scared them. Why is the amount of information that can travel so fast they can't keep up to filter it? I mean, there's always a way with this. There's the dark internet. There's this or that information. Listen, man, there's one thing I've always known that has come true, and I have tried to tell everybody else that I said, you're better to do the right thing, correct it as soon as you realize it's wrong, or anything else. Why? Because that which was in the darkness will always be brought into the light. Every single time.
Every time, Gunner. Yeah, I mean, if somebody wants to charge you for something you can get for free, there's a good chance that, that's probably not the greatest. That's probably not the greatest group. Now I know JWL does solicit donations, but those are soliciting donations. Every nonprofit, first, Red Cross, yada yada yada. Everybody solicits donations. But if you're charging money and you say that you have the solution, and you'll get that solution if you just pay X number of dollars, you swear, Gunner, I'm gonna swear, that's fucking bullshit. All right, you do not have the silver bullet.
Like it is, brother.
You do not have the answer, right? Because if you did and you cared about kids, you'd give it for free. So that's all I got to say on that, Gunner. But my phone's gonna die.
Appreciate it, Johnny. Thanks again for being on the show. And,
I appreciate you, brother.
We'll catch you next time.
Yeah, I'll be there.
So
his phone just died.
Yeah. So I think moving forward with all this stuff, I think we're seeing a lot of advocates fall. We're seeing a lot of people that are in the front line reporting, doing this, doing that. Even with what I'm promoting with this and that, where, this is the first case of its nature to do this, of saying, if this works the way it should, this is what cause and effect. This is what we're hoping for. But there's no promises. But at the same time, I'm just saying, listen, I just want something as simple as an affidavit to do this, to turn in this evidence. We've already done the filings and everything else. You know, with the other affidavits, everybody else is saying, well, what are you going to do it for? They're going to be entered as an exhibit. Now,
Right.
what are they going to do after that? They're going to be turned over to the Department of Justice. Why? Because they got to have a place to start to go after us, saying, here's the criminals, as we were talking about before. Here's the victims. These are the players. These are the actors. This is the stuff that went on. And all that other stuff, you know what I'm saying? Now we have a place to start, because then the DOJ can look at it and go, look, here's somebody from this state, here's somebody from that, and then they can begin to peel the onion, as they have been doing, especially with this administration. I think that's a huge thing that we have to understand, that people, especially today with the administration, they don't think there's a lot of things going on with family courts or CPS and this and that, but the news has been telling us otherwise, of the bust of the trafficking, the stuff that happened just down in Miami, Florida,
Right.
just a couple of weeks ago, and you know the stuff going on in Texas and Houston. I think that just broke news. Well, once again, Jennifer Branson, when were we going to see something? When are we going to see something? Why? Cases take time. If you got to understand, there's no quick solution. Everything has to go through a process. And we'd love to speed up that process, but especially nowadays when we have this microwave mentality of, I don't want to let it cook all day. I don't want to do the prep work. This why I want to peel it back out of the freezer, put it in the microwave for a few seconds, and I call it microwave mentality, and just bam and zap it, and it's there. But at the same time, that stuff ain't no good for you, man. It's not healthy. You may like the convenience of things. And let alone now we're finding out, thanks to RFK, the stuff that's in our food and our fast food, you don't want to eat that stuff. It's got human meat in it, or it's got bones, or it's got. We have sold out. There is a right way to listen. There's a right way and a wrong way to do things, folks. And when we want to hurry up the process, that's great, but we don't want to sacrifice the purity of it or the nutritional value of it. And that is what the family court system is. Hurry up, because it's business. Let me kick you out, in and out, in and out. Let me do. Why? Because when that judge looks at you from the bench, or that magistrate, they don't look at you or give a shit about the kids. It's about the dollar signs that are going in their pockets and securing, especially here in Tennessee and in Blount County, a portion, especially of child support, those administrative fees, that goes into the judge's retirement funds. So they're adjudicating based off the money. Oh, we're getting tons of attention. Since this case has been filed, I have been contacted by politicians, other reporters of large facilities watching this, FBI, DOJ, other agencies, and so on and so forth, that are aware of the case, and they go, this has teeth, and we've been told to watch and get information.
Can I hop in here for a second? So there's a lot of people who have been fighting this for many, many years, decades, a lot of people.
Yes.
And I don't want these people to be forgotten about. So I want to remember that all of these people have had a large part in where we're at today. And I don't want anyone to think that just because one or two of us or a couple of us blew up on social media, we're not forgetting about you guys, because we know that you went before us, just like our forefathers did, kind of set that groundwork. We understand that you went before us and you guys set the stage for what's happening today. And without you all fighting for years and years and years before, we would not be able to be where we're at today. And trust me when I say that the day, especially for the people that are in Blount County, the day Blount County goes down in the same manner that Knoxville went down, we will all be soliciting you to drive to us so that we can all enjoy the win. And we want you to be there. If news is there, if we're there, whatever, we want you to be there in Blount County, Tennessee, to be able to experience that win. And I think that it is going to happen. That's just what
Oh
I
yeah.
feel. I don't know this
Well,
from any source. I'm not getting any information from anyone. It's
yeah.
just something that I feel. There's too many things that are going down in East Tennessee right now. There's too many people that are raising noise. We have county commissioners that are now questioning Magistrate Lashman. We have people that are calling us, or giving us information about the interconnectedness between the sheriff, the governor, some of the congressmen and women. I mean, it's really kind of a sick little place. And the fact that Blount County is adjacent to a national park, I think that's one of the reasons why they're able to kind of, traffic children by way of CPS in and out so easily into Blount County, Tennessee, Knoxville, Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, all those places. So all I can say is continue the fight. So Jennifer, I know that you guys are there. Jennifer and Michael, I've been watching your comments. Continue the fight. Do not stop. And we want you to be part of this when it happens, because we know that a lot of you guys have suffered for years and years and years.
We will let you guys
situations,
know
decades.
when, like my case, and they're getting ready for a verdict and this and that. Let me tell you something, guys. The reckoning, we will be calling out all of you from across the country. And if you can make it to Knoxville, Tennessee, when that verdict is read, it will be huge. Because like I said, if that constitutional question comes back as we know it should, that will make all those cases null and void, and the kids come home. And at the same time, it will open federal lawsuits. There will be a rush, a shutdown of family law and attorneys, that there all of a sudden there's this great demand. Now it's gone. So we have the bar, the American Bar Association. I've been told I'm on their radar with this case because it would shut it all down. And then all their attorneys would what? They would be considered what? Co-conspirators, because they should have argued that they never had jurisdiction and they're supposed to know the law.
Right.
That's part of their oath. So now you're looking at that whole system imploding. All the judges held accountable. You didn't have jurisdiction. That's imitating a federal judge. That's, that's fraud upon the court. That's this. It's huge. Going into it, that's why everybody's like, we didn't realize you connected the dots the way nobody else has connected the dots, but you've done it using your own personal experience. There's the big difference.
Yep.
And
that's awesome.
You've articulated it in your filings. Like I said, it was close to 700 pages, including the fact they go, well, what makes it a difference? Well, when we filed in 2025, retaliation, man, I had to deal with retaliation. Guess what? I got all the receipts and documentations and all that stuff, and it's sitting on the court record right now. It's gone. What do you call a group of trans female superheroes? The X-Men. Lord have mercy. Amy would like that one. Listen, guys, this is about, well, I guess Jessica dropped out. I don't know if she'll jump back in or she lost it. Guys, don't give up the fight. And we're going to wrap up a few things here. Don't give up the fight, man. We have seen people come. We have seen people go. Even in the short period of time I've been in, they have caught a lot of people that were CPS plants. They've called them out. There's a few that, I've turned around, and there she is back in the back room. Let me bring her back out. And this is what we've got to do, is we've got to say, listen, man, you want to come for me? And I've had people come after me. And I've told them I'm transparent. You want to know something? We'll go have that private conversation. And when that comes out, and when the rubber meets the road and the bullshit that people end up taking and talking, they turn around and they go, yeah, that ain't what I heard. And no, nope, because nobody knows me. There are very few. There is a handful of people that know me and truly know the guts of my case. I mean, the guts. I mean, all of it. And that's one thing too, that, even with the stuff I've had to go through and all my other stuff, I had to go back and go, okay, how did this originate? And, I have to pick up and do what the investigators failed to do. You know what I'm saying? Where did this come from? How did it come from? Which direction did it come from? How did this originate? Did it come from this? Did it come from this? I had to do the job that the state paid them and the federal government paid them to do, and they screwed it up. And now there's a whole different story with things that are out there to where it's like, why is it I have to do my job? Why do I have to take my time that I'm paying our tax dollars are going towards your paychecks and you ain't doing a damn thing. You're worthless. Completely. Marbury versus Madison. Yeah, 1803. Howlett versus Rose. Sorry, not Rhodes. At the same time, here in Blount County, like I was sharing, Jessica and I was having that conversation. Blount County, Tennessee doesn't even have a damn charter. And we've got people turning around. They have a set of rules just for the judges and stuff they have, but there's no charter, which is why there's no term limits, which is why there's no, hey, if you're over a certain age, you're not going to get charged property taxes or it's going to be offset. We're going to go to this program or this program. It's not even fun. It's functioning under a false flag. And they don't want us to know that, especially if you're in Blount County. That's why they're getting away with the crap they're doing. And now I guess they said Alcoa, Tennessee is looking to get one of those lovely data centers that Alcoa Aluminum has donated some of their parcels over there
Hey, did you know that Blount County's county, it is called the county charter, actually, but I get it that they're not an actual charter, but their county charter says that all the judges must be in court at 9 a.m. Did you know that? I've been to court. I have never been to that court where a judge is stepping onto the bench at 9 a.m. But do you know what that is? That's called labor fraud. Because even if you are on salary by the state and you're not working, that is still fraud. That's theft. You're stealing that money while you're not working. I can't tell you how many times I've been to court. I was ordered to be in court at 9 a.m. Judge Harrington shows up at 11:30, 12 o'clock. I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, we had a chambers adoption. I'm like, and it takes you 2.5 hours? No, by the time they're coming in for an adoption in the judge's chambers, all of the other stuff is done. It's literally sign, take a couple pictures while you guys are selling these children and move on, right? It's ridiculous. But yeah, that's in the county charter. I can send that to you, but they're supposed to be working on the bench at 9 a.m.
Yeah, there's a lot of things they've renamed it. They've come up with this and that, but the oldest thing that's in there, once again, these are pretends. And were they voted on by the people? Were they done this? Right. So it's not a legitimate charter if the people have not voted on to institute it. That's why I say there's no charter, because there's been no vote on any of this. So a lot of things that we've heard, probably in Blount County, but I'm sure in other counties too across the United States, this is the same thing. This is not something new under the sun. It's one of those things of saying, well, we have this, well, this over here, well, we've adopted this. Yeah, but was it voted on by the people? Because for it to exist, the people have to contract with the state. Therefore, we have to vote. You have to turn around and figure out where there was a vote. Well, they came up with it. Well, who wrote this? Well, this judge and this person over here that is the chancellor or this, that, and they just created this thing, and then they wrote it all up, put it out there, and there it is. And then some secret board meeting that the people are not even allowed in. Well, we voted it in. And that's not voting it in. It has to be done by the people. This brings me back to the other thing of, this is why CPS, when the state weaponized CPS, it's a conflict of interest. Why? It's illegal. Because we have elected our duly elected constitutional sheriff. You're interfering with the duties of a sheriff is what the state has done. Why? We, the people, have elected the sheriff to do investigations into crime and this and that. So when you gave it to a state agency, you're now interfering with somebody that is appointed actor versus somebody that was voted in by the people. You can't do that. You don't have the power to do that. That's a conflict of interest. You can't make secret laws that people have elected somebody to do this duty, which is why abuse, neglect, and all those other things hold a criminal code. Because why? It's supposed to be investigated and everything else by the sheriff's department. After that, it ends. CPS is supposed to only go in and offer voluntary services, but they're not. It's right there in their paperwork in all 50 states. Jessica, you know that. Voluntary, but how much of this has been voluntary?
I know.
And so a lot of people I've heard retaliated, the retaliation. Well, if I do this, I'll give you an example for some of the different things I've heard. If I stick up for this, I'm going to stay in jail. But if I just plead out to this case, which puts me as a criminal, guess what's going to happen? Now that's kind of tarnished your name this head, but I'm going to be fighting from the outside rather than the inside. And then I can at least provide for my family or do this. Or they're trying to put me in jail and I'm doing this as a public school teacher, or I'm doing this as, somebody that works in the clerk's office, or I'm doing this over here, here, and here. Why? Because they're using those political positions to push these people out that they don't like, which is why you're seeing things, especially even in Blount County and several other counties through Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, all these other things, this and that, especially these small towns. You'll notice that we'll say the husband works for this, and the wife is over here in what? The clerk's office. Isn't that a conflict of interest? Hey, if my husband's the sheriff and I'm over here in the clerk's office, that's a conflict of interest. You can't hold those two positions. Why? But if you had a charter and you put that in there that you can't have familiar relations to work in there, Bob's your uncle, or what a lot of people take and say, the good old boy system, that's how it gets instituted, because you don't come in and say, we the people want to put this on and we want to vote on it. Why? Propose those bills in your local, as Jessica's going, from all these different counties and so on and so forth, just turn around and say, hey, listen, maybe you ought to take and bring this up with the people on the people side to stir them up in that county and say, maybe you ought to get together and present a bill and put it as a presentation to be voted on by the people, not by the council, and put it on the next election and get it on the ballot, so to speak. Let the people's voice be heard. And there's a way that you can do that, to go out there and say, no, I don't want the politics in it. I want the people to vote on this, and you must abide by it. There's all sorts of this stuff through here. And you'll see this. I've heard that from not just Blount County here in Blount County, Tennessee, but all over the country. It's like a repetitious thing of like, well, so-and-so is a deputy or a lieutenant or a lead investigator with the sheriff's department, and the wife works over here. Why? They work for the government, state government too, but they're over here. But it's a conflict of interest. Or you've got somebody that's just in the clerk's office that, here, I'm going to sign the judge's name. You can't sign the judge's name, especially the stuff like warrants and stuff like that. I had somebody out in, I think it was West Tennessee, out there towards Dixon County, turn around and go, oh no, the clerk signed it. The clerk can't sign the judge's name. Well, they do it all the time over here. Matter of fact, the cop even admitted to it, and I got it on video. I'm like, what? No.
Yeah, it's crazy. We need a lot of people doing a lot of investigations and kind of gathering this type of evidence, and then collaborate with each other in your local county and or even your region. Like, we're all kind of collective here in East Tennessee now. But we've got to start doing this, and it's nothing more than open source intelligence that you're gathering and putting together for a presentation to hopefully a 3-letter agency and say, hey, look at all the things that's happening here. How many children are in foster care right now that shouldn't be? We have so many children in foster care right now that the state is threatening to put more children into a jail instead of putting them into a home with relatives, if there is such a thing as abuse and neglect that's going on, in the home with that child. The problem is that the numbers show over and over again that only about 2% of the children who are removed by CPS, only 2% of those children were actually in some type of danger. The other 98% should never even have had an investigation done. Most of that was either false abuse or allegations, lies, the things that you should not be removing children for. Another problem that we're seeing is that amongst the reports of the 2%, right? Only 2% that are removed are actually being removed because of abuse and neglect. But there's a number here in between where there are children who have been abused and are not being removed, and they're left with the abusive parent. As a matter of fact, we have 8. We have 8 parents who have been before one particular judge in Blount County, Tennessee, where that was the case. And the judge left the children or child who were being abused with the abuser. In the meantime, we have the same judge with other cases who removed these children from healthy, loving, fit parents and put them into foster care. It's the most bass awkward thing that I have ever seen in my entire life. But this is the type of information that I'm encouraging people to do in your local counties. This isn't just specific to East Tennessee. It's all over the country, but you've got to start documenting this. Another thing, pull your head out of the bucket for just a little bit. Stop thinking about your own case. For one, it's extremely detrimental for you to be working and stressing over your own case, because you'll start spiraling and you're not going to be spiraling in the right direction. Take a little bit of time, pull yourself out of your case, start focusing on someone else's case. Collecting data for other individuals. Go to the clerk of court with somebody. Go to court with somebody. Support other people that are in your local area. Get yourself acclimated to other people's cases, so now you can start documenting patterns, because people lie, patterns don't. Remember that. Always remember that. People lie, patterns don't. Once you start documenting these patterns, then you can basically look at that judge and say, you have 12 families here where you have had the exact same pattern. And these patterns are actually criminal in nature because they have deprived all of these families of their rights. Now, when you start stacking the fact that let's say all these families have four individuals, and all 4 of those individuals had their rights deprived, that is 1 count felony crime for every person, including the children. If the children are kidnapped through the system, that's where we come into that second statute on the federal law, 18 U.S.C. 241 and 242, where it says kidnapping. Kidnapping is what brings about the possibility of a capital offense, which means that there's a capital penalty for these judges. And as far as JWL, Justice Without Limits, what we are doing right now is we are 100% focused on getting these judges indicted. They need to be indicted. They need to be arrested. They need to go through court. And we're not talking about what Magistrate Lashmet went through, where there was some type of judicial diversion, where 25 of her cronies were able to write letters about how great she was as a person and how society would just suffer so much if this magistrate juvenile court judge was let back on the street after hiding, aiding, and abetting her own son's child pornography, some of it he created himself. And this magistrate is now she's just, judicial diversion. She has
that same story too, that they didn't allow the parents of those kids that were affected in that to write letters in. They blocked them out.
I did not know that, but that pisses me off like nothing else. So here's the thing. We have, at least in East Tennessee, what I expect is there's not going to be another Magistrate Lashmet. Her name is Diane Lashmet. There's not going to be another Diane Lashmet that's going to ever have a judicial diversion, for one. And the reason is because we're going to be able to collectively put pressure on the people, because we now know their MO, right? Yeah. So they got 25 people to write a favorable letter. But what if we have 1,000 people that writes a big fuck you, judges? As far as a character, we're gonna provide a character witness letter. And this is what this character witness letter is going to say, because there's enough people in Blount County right now with all of the crimes that these people have been documenting against these judges that we can get that done 100%. And the sheriff is in on all of this. The sheriff knows what is happening. He knows the crimes that are being committed, and he knows because I told him, for one. The county attorney knows. All of these people know. And it was interesting, Gunnar. So the other day when I got this wind of Knoxville, Tennessee, and all of these deputies and former sheriffs or whatever being indicted, I was like, I guarantee that there's some bungholes in Blount County, Tennessee that's squanching up right now in the sheriff's department, because they know, man, they've got to know. They have been operating in this criminal enterprise for decades. The sheriff has been there for what, 20 years? 40 years?
Fifth or sixth judicial drug task force that goes through Blount County, Knox County, Sevier County, and this and that. And that was all within that. Yeah.
100%. They're getting some sleepless nights. And I think that they're going to try to cover their tracks. The problem is that we've already got the information. They can't hide anything. They can't cover anything up. And if they continue, here's the thing. Sheriff Barong, if you ever get this message, you can't continue to operate the way that you have been operating because we already know. And we all have cameras on our homes. So when you slashed those 4 tires last week, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, Sheriff Barong, when you slashed and you sent your little minions out to slash those 4 tires on that guy, we already know. We know who it was. We have the license plate number. We know the vehicle. And we even know where the dude lives who slashed the tires. So I don't know what you think you're getting away with, but you're not getting away with it anymore.
Now, this same sheriff, there was I guess there was a report not that a while back or something, that there was a complaint filed to where he actually threatened somebody to like burn their house down, and
Oh
there's
yeah.
like a whole police report on it and everything.
Yeah, so that was a long time ago. That was in early 2000s, but that was his secretary. And what happened was his secretary knew that he was cheating on his wife, and his wife, Gail, God bless her soul, she called his secretary and she was like, "Hey, can you please tell me if my husband is cheating on me?" The secretary said yes. Her last name was Nichols. And the secretary said yes. And Jodine Nickel or Nichols. Anyway, look it up. And Sheriff Barong, because they have like a VoIP system or whatever, so he can listen in to all of the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so basically he came in and he threatened her, and he said that I will burn your house down. I will what did he say? He said I will destroy your family. I will set your dog on fire, and I will burn your house down, and there will not be any of you left. Do you understand me? Look it up. That's what was in the federal filing. Now, here's the thing. This is what irks me so much. Irks. I think I said that wrong. Irks. Here is what gets me so much. And that is because that is a domestic terrorist threat. How many of us that are out here doing the right thing are on a freaking domestic terrorist list? But yet you have a sheriff who actually has a domestic terrorist history, and nothing happens. He just gets away with it, and that's okay. And it was interesting when I brought this to the county commission meeting, nobody knew about that. All of them, Gunner, they all looked like deer in the headlights that night. It was hilarious. I actually almost laughed because they all were like all wide-eyed, and I'm like, how can you be here in this county and you don't know it? It's because they turn a blind eye to things. And it's because the sheriff threatens people not to talk about this stuff. And unfortunately for the sheriff, he's threatened so many people. It's just like what you were talking about with the Declaration of Independence. When you have a government that pushes people to that final point, then they're like, screw it. We have a government that has gone rogue, and it is not only our right, but it is our duty to take back our government. And that's what we're doing in Blount County. And the most beautiful thing about it is that we're doing it lawfully and legally and peacefully. There's not going to be any gunfire, at least not on our side. But we're still going to take these people down. And it is going to be a glorious day. I'm just going to tell you.
And
it's going to be a day.
Under the First Amendment is a lot of people ask this because there has been conversation with those things, especially here in Tennessee. The law has changed now that will go, I think it's effective July 1st, to where now it's not just your home, it's your land. So if you step onto my land with intent to steal, destroy, or anything else, I have the right to repel those borders using my Second Amendment. I made the connection, and I actually got a call on it, and they go, listen, we need to know your intent on this. And I go, what do you mean? I says, I'm going off of what the law says. He goes, well, you made the connection that if an officer of the law, a deputy or a CPS worker steps onto your land and this and that you have the right. I says, I didn't say it. I said the state legislation said it. If they don't have a warrant and they're there to steal children and their intent is to break into the house, which I have them on body cam footage asking the deputy from the sheriff's department, we can't go into the house. Oh yeah, said it. After the officer illegally searched my property, the curtilage and everything else, the side of my house, and had the intent, he said right on his body cam footage, I would have searched the backyard if his dogs weren't back there.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now you're there. Now you're an enemy combatant. Why? You don't have what was your probable cause for even deputies to be on my property or knock on my door? You don't have probable cause even to do the knock thing. What does that mean? if I know that your intent's already here, which is I've already, made it clear, I says, they come on again, it's going to be, I says, now that this is passed, show up to my house, CPS or law enforcement or this and that, and go, you better call first, you better this first. I says, and you've already been served a no trespass. Now we got a problem because now you're looking at criminal, and now this goes to my property, which means the easement is 6 foot off the road. And if you come beyond that border and you are now considered an imminent threat, that I have the right under state law to repel borders. Why? And everybody goes, well, we wanted to make, I go, well, let me ask you something. And this was the question that was posed by law enforcement when I was asked, we wouldn't need to know your intent of that, whether or not that's against. I go, no, because if they violate that constitutional right, their immunity's gone and their title or protection is stripped immediately. That includes state actors, including CPS. I said, so if they're there and they're not there for a lawful cause, and I feel that they're there to do me harm or to break into my home, I have every right to shoot to kill. Mm-hmm. And they go, I says, is that not correct or is that correct? They said, well, now that you've explained it that way, that yes, as soon as your constitutional rights are violated and you feel a threat, or I says, they're coming armed, are they not? Especially the sheriff's department. I says, I guess you better figure out what the Fourth Amendment is, and Blount County better figure it out. Why? It's not a threat. It's saying if you break the law and you violate the Constitution, and I feel you're a threat, especially after everything I've put on the federal record now, I have the right to defend myself.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
They go,
I mean,
oh, okay. But you see what I'm saying, though? I mean, that's why, hey, we've got to keep up with this, because legislation now at the state level has said this, and they go, you realize this applies to state workers for CPS and sheriff's office that violate the Constitution. That applies to them also. And they go, what did you mean by that? I go, think about it. Let's go down the rabbit trail. And they go, oh, well, yeah, I guess you're right. I go, that's all I'd have to quote to have a case dismissed. What happened? I felt imminent danger. They were here to come into my house, and I repelled borders. Leave.
Right. Yeah, 100%. So, it's true. Same thing with your vehicle. I mean, most people don't realize that your castle continues into your vehicle. I think that one of the things that we've got to start doing is and hotels. We've got to start educating our neighbors. A lot of people don't know these things, and I'm so glad. I mean, this is amazing for Tennessee. Now, I don't know about moving back there. I mean, I probably will if I can have my kids, but yeah, that is really interesting. And we just need to start exercising our full rights to the fullest extent of the law, because we're entering into a time where they will, at the sheriff's own order, they are willing to violate their oath of office and commit crimes against us. I mean, when you have, you know what, so I can't talk about some of these things, but when all of this stuff is released, I'll be able to say a lot. We'll be able to talk about some of the investigations and things we've been doing, information that we've been gathering. But just know, and I saw that James posted this earlier, the sheriff does have technology. The sheriff in Blount County, he has technology that he is using unlawfully, because he can ping all of our phones. Now, you're only supposed to do that if you have a warrant, because that's when you would have to have a warrant to do that. But he's pinging our phones, and he's using the technology without the appropriate authority. And this is coming from people from the inside. So we have whistleblowers from within the sheriff's department that's releasing that information out to us about what the sheriff in Blount County is doing. So very interesting times that we're moving into here. And I'm so thankful for those whistleblowers.
With thermal technology that can actually see how you're moving around in your house and everything else. They have that access too.
But does the sheriff of Blount County have access to that technology, or are you just talking about the government in particular? The sheriff does? Interesting.
With their SWAT team and everything else, when they went and got Kenny?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But was that a SWAT team that was brought in, or was that theirs?
That was a combination between that and what do you call it? That was a multi-jurisdictional type SWAT team.
Yeah, I know
so
Knoxville was there for sure.
Was there too, but they still have access to they've got their own little armored vehicle for Blount County for that stuff. But understanding that too. Now, let me explain something. Now, let's look at how they've developed this technology. But now look at, you have aluminum foil back insulation that would prevent that technology to going through. And now let's add this on top. Lead paint. You couldn't go through it and scan it. You don't think this was not thought of to take a, well, people, I'm old enough to remember the story of when we got rid of lead paint because babies were eating paint chips. I'm like, babies weren't eating paint. I didn't know of anybody that had a kid die anywhere from the paint chip. I mean, back then it was plaster and lath, before there was drywall, and they were eating the chunks of the drywall, and it had asbestos in it with some of the plaster, Paris of plaster and stuff, because that was one of the binders, because it had a hair technology for it, and it was part of an insulation factor. But we look at all these things that have stripped away the protection of the Fourth Amendment, even within the technology of something as foolish as paint or insulation. That stuff wouldn't work if that was in every home. It would be a useless technology. And I think there's something more sinister that comes into play with those things as these technologies are developed, where, and this has been questioned too with our food and everything else, but and understand this too. If you look at Fourth Amendment case law, there's so much on the Fourth Amendment and the protection of the home. It's just one of those things. Like I said, you've just got to get in there and in your overlay, I put the flyer. Oh yeah. And if you guys don't know about, our producer here for gunning for CPS, Tiff and the Punisher, and several of the other shows, the CPS Breaking News Network. If you guys don't know that Darren's house was actually burnt down in Maine, and they have nothing. There's been a lot of people that have, hey, I'll help, I'll do this, I'll do that, and have not done anything. And now this is somebody that we're not talking about putting towards the show. We're talking about an individual to where we say, listen, man, the loss of a home, especially during a fire or, something tragic like that. I mean, just no support whatsoever. Like you said, a lot of people, hey, I'll give money to this, I'll give money to that. But, you've got people that have lost everything, burnt up, and you get people with false hope and false promises. And, I think the local government ended up, condemning the house. They actually charged him for being on his own property. And I mean, this is up in Maine. This is mass corruption. And then they stole his property and trying to take it over and bulldoze it and everything else. That they're just, once again, this is local governments doing what they want to do. And it's like, hey, listen, we're enough to burn your house down, and still not even a decision, not even, all this other stuff. I mean, you've got people that are being retaliated against. Is it possible that was done for retaliation because of exposure? Yeah, it's possible.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I mean,
wouldn't
you've
surprise
got
me at all.
somebody, Barone turned around, as you were saying, that was in the federal filings of, here, I'll burn your damn house down. Well, obviously this is trend within, like you said, patterns. Doesn't that sound like the same pattern that he threatened that is possibly happening up in Maine? I mean, through all of that. But well, Jessica, I appreciate you being on the show this evening. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me.
I personally don't blame you with this. Like I said, I know there's people out there that can pull the wool over our eyes, with this and that, and we only learn over a period of time of what people are actually true and what people are actually trying to do to use or manipulate us. You and I have had that conversation on many fronts. It's not the first time. It's not the only one. They could be close to you. They could be semi-close to you. They could, as we talk about circles, they could be circle 1, circle 2, circle 3. And understand there are people out there, that's all they know how to do, because they don't know how to stand on their own or be the individual person. Or one thing, especially in the advocate world, and I know you'll agree with me, is people that have hero syndrome. I want to be the one that does this.
Yeah.
I don't give a
I
shit
know.
myself, even with my case.
I don't either.
Well, I just want to watch the motherfucker burn.
Yeah, 100%. I don't care. If my social media went away tomorrow, I mean, it would be a little bit sad just because I wouldn't be able to reach as many people, but I wouldn't care. I just start it again, They're like, oh, guess that's what God wanted to happen. So one thing I want to say, and you're right about people can do, I mean, I had a man that pulled the wool over my eyes for 11 years and 2 kids. I mean, I think I might have just been born to be naive. I trust people. I really do. I trust when people tell me something, and
You have good hope. You have good hope and
I
intentions
want,
for people.
I do.
I want to
Anyway,
believe who you want to become when you tell me
yes.
that.
But one thing I do want to say is that I hope that Tanawa is just honest about things, and I hope that I'm going to pray for him, and I want to encourage everybody else to pray for him as well. Now, do I think that people should be donating to him until he kind of comes clean with some of this stuff? No. I don't. There's too many things that I've seen that it's not right. And do what you want, but at this point, my hands are clean because I've told you guys what I know, and I mean, and that's it. So I don't know. It was I am thankful. I was a little bit shocked. I was a little bit pissed off at the way that all this came out with Johnny, because I trusted Johnny a lot, but I do see now that was probably the way that it needed to be done.
Do the right thing, girl. You just couldn't figure that out, and sometimes those around us figure it out for us. That's why they're like that.
That's true, and just know that it wasn't that I just didn't want to cause a bunch of more. Thank you. More confusion, diversion. He slowed down in the movement. I just didn't know what to do. And so I am thankful that Johnny did take that step and got it done. So, and I will make a follow-up video about some of this stuff that's a little bit more professional. But
listen, man, just because it doesn't always listen, man. It doesn't have to be pretty. Sometimes the truth is just the truth. And that's one thing that we've got to remember too, that we don't have to, we don't have to, what's the term around here? Church it up. You ain't got to church it up and clean it up and make it look, this particular way or this particular way. Sometimes the truth just has to come out. And sometimes there's a lot of stuff with timing, when truth comes out, that there has to be, don't be knee jerk. Don't be, jump to conclusion. Take your time with it, analyze it, sort it through. And when it's the time to bring it out, it's the right time to bring it out. And I think that's something that comes with wisdom as we get older, to know when, and not be that person because that's when a lot of scuttlebutt happens or a lot of rumors happen. Like, well, I heard. Yeah, but did you go back and verify? I mean, I know. I can't tell you how many times I've asked people when they've used things like ChatGPT or some of these other things there, because they're known to do this stuff, of just saying, "Hey, make sure you go back and read those case laws, or go make sure it's a real freaking case." You know what I'm saying? Because why? It's been known to give you cases that don't even exist, or coming up with stuff and getting creative. But once again, it's not programmed to do that, and that's part of the de facto with it. And it's like, hey. Check your sources, take your time, do your research, and be wise with the information, because sometimes it's better just to sit back and watch as things progress. Mm-hmm. And then it's okay, now's the time, because then it's not just you're seeing and you're gathering more information at the same time, that now I've got, what I'm saying, now's the right time. And I think that's one thing a lot of people don't understand, is timing has a lot to do with it. And I think that's embedded within us, within our creator, is sometimes what we're going through or what we're doing is not always for us to do right now, but it's preparing us for what we're about to do.
Yep. I believe that too.
So
Yeah, for sure.
that's just life, man. As I've gone through it, that's the thing that I've learned through it. And I always try to share that wisdom, with people, especially with stuff that comes up. Is listen, man, you're going to become wiser after this. Why?
Yeah.
Because you're going to be more watchful. You're going to test people more. You're going to learn more. You're going to, educate. You're going to dig more. Why? Because just like our founding fathers said, when we realize it's become to the point it is, like you said, yes, to overthrow those things and replace them. But the second part of that is make sure you make provisions to make sure it never happens again.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
100%.
and that's where we get our freedoms from. Well, Jessica, thank you so much again for being on here. We'll probably do some follow-up in the future on this as things progress with you guys. And as things progress through the case, I know if you guys our viewers don't know out there, Jessica and I are actually from the same county in Tennessee for mass corruption. We had the same former magistrate, we'll call it now, and judge, to where there's a lot of overlap. That's how we just kind of come together on a lot of things, is because of our cases of saying, hey, I had the same magistrate. Oh yeah, well, I had the same judge. Wow, look at what we have in common.
And guardian ad litem and attorney.
Yeah, guardian.
Remember Jenkins?
Yeah, Jenkins. Yeah, matter of fact, I don't know if you know that, but one of the other guardian ad litems actually became the next magistrate after Lashnitz come down.
I heard that. Do you know that Gina Jenkins signed a character witness letter on behalf of LaSchmidt?
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that? Yeah.
I
didn't know I was paying $6,000 to a child molester sympathizer.
Oh, there's a lot of their history and past, and like I said, I don't think they'll be practicing law much, because one of the things as a guardian ad litem is in the best interest of the children, right?
Yeah, you're supposed to be. Yeah.
You do realize those children were all questions without the presence of an attorney, and it violated those children's civil rights, and everything should have been thrown out. People say, well, how can you say that? I go to the Department of Justice. It's called the Criminal Resource Manual, Section 121, that specifically and explicitly talks about how juveniles have both Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights explicitly in Section 121. That includes the right to an attorney, and that wasn't present during questioning. Therefore, you violated the kid's constitutional rights, and the rights can be what? Given, but they can never be taken away. Yeah. Jessica, thanks again, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Have a great, safe trip, and hopefully you get everything squared away, and let me know.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Well, guys, there it is. We've got tons of information. We've dropped the knowledge, the bomb on you, so to speak. Hopefully you've got and gathered enough information to go piss somebody off with what's left of the day or throughout the rest of the week to our show next week at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're on Rumble. We're on Twitch. We're on Facebook Live, and we're on YouTube. I did get a TikTok back up. I'm getting a little tired here, but I have to reach 1,000 viewers before they're going to allow me to go live. I do have enough people within my showing. I just have to have at least 1,000 followers. We've been up for a week or two, but we have put it on with TikTok that we are press, and that any attempt to take it down will result in a lawsuit. We have filed all the appropriate paperwork to go live, so there's no issues there. Like there was last time. It took us about 3 years to get back on TikTok. But we do have one there explicitly for the show. The purpose of that, once again, is to share some of the information as we do here on that platform. We share a lot of stuff on Facebook. And like I said, if you guys don't follow the pages and stuff, let us know. Get out there, support Jessica Saxon. Like I said, the Truth Without Limits organization right there. Once again, it's not connected to Tanawa. It's her own separate thing. She's done her own thing. She's been transparent. She's been honest with you, which is what, like I said, this is one thing I would say that, between that and many other people, these are people that we call friend, people that we do associate with, because why? They're honest and they're transparent. So I'm going to leave you guys. We've got a brand new reckoning
System
plan.
has fallen. County CPS.
This is Gunner with Gunning for CPS, signing out. Have a great week, guys, and don't forget to piss somebody off this week with that knowledge and education you got. Have a great week, guys.
Of deceit, Blount County CPS, your lies have lost their heat. Stormed in without warrant, ripped the family apart. Branded an innocent man, tried to shatter his heart. Fabricated reports, registry of shame. No charges, no trial, just a corrupt game. Now the federal court is watching every crooked move. The hunter becomes the hunted, your empire will lose. Feel the ground shake, hear the thunder roll. The truth is a weapon and it's claiming its toll. This is the reckoning. Pain they try to hide. Your gunner stands unbreakable, fueled by righteous pride. Blount County DCS crossed the final line. Now the lawsuit strikes like lightning, exposing every crime. No mercy for tyrants hiding behind the state. The people are awake and they seal your fate. Power you abuse will crumble into dust. The Father's war is raging, injustice we trust. Feel the ground shake, hear the thunder roll. The truth is a weapon and it's claiming its toll. This is the reckoning. Justice screams your name in fire for every stolen child, for every broken empire. The reckoning is here. Burn higher. You took the innocent. You destroyed the home. Now the reckoning rises. And you stand alone. Break the chains! Break the chains! This is the reckoning! Gunner Evers leads the fight! Blount County CPS! Disappearing from sight! The reckoning! Your kingdom falls tonight! For every parent rising! For every child set free! The reckoning is here! Victory! Gunner Evers, still standing tall. Blount County CPS. The reckoning has only just begun. The truth cannot be silenced. Justice will be done!